If high highs and low lows was a director, it would probably be Ridley Scott, but right next to him would be M. Night Shyamalan. Look, I've been no stranger to critiquing Shyamalan's newer work, and while I love his originality, I can't always say the same about his execution. God damn it, M. Night, The Village could have been a masterpiece if you just rearranged the third act. But one movie of his that I've always stood by, despite the hate that is extremely common with this controversial film, is Signs. I absolutely love this movie, and a few years ago, I made a comprehensive breakdown on Signs that you should watch after this video. Hey man, I'm a YouTuber, of course I'm gonna plug myself. I would argue that Signs is Shyamalan's most polarizing film, because you have some people that really hate it and constantly bring up how the ending destroys the movie, but on the other side, you have the fans who adore the film, and they say the ending is actually quite good if you factor in other possible interpretations. I won't say them here to avoid spoilers. Check out my other video if you want my take on the ending, since there are multiple ways to tackle it. But back to this video, Signs is a movie that has gotten a lot more love and recognition in recent years. I want to focus on what is probably the most famous scene from this movie, the iconic birthday party scene. Hey, that's my name. But just before we get to this scene, yes, I just tickled your balls again, we need to appreciate the build-up that Signs utilizes in unveiling its monster. The aliens in Signs are shown periodically throughout the film, and when we see them earlier on, we only get glimpses. Shyamalan does a superb job of choosing the most eerie setting for this alien invasion, since we're dealing with the only non-gun owning family on a remote farm in America. The opening of the movie has a scene with Graham Hess talking to his daughter in the nighttime trying to get her to sleep, but as he looks up we're met with a jump scare of something staring back at him. This jump scare always scared the living shit out of me as a kid, and it still creeps me out now as an adult. We get a quick glimpse of this humanoid looking thing standing on the roof staring through the window back at our protagonist, and then that's all that we see of these intruders for a while. This scare does a great job of setting the mood for the film, where it feels like there are things around the farm, but they just haven't made themselves known yet. The silhouette also works well with Graham, believing it's people who are messing with him, since in the darkness of night, this thing does look quite human. I also love how it clumsily climbs onto the roof in a matter of seconds when Graham and Meryl go to chase it, and it's trying to hide itself, but it's impossible to deny its existence. This is a great spooky first impression that Shyamalan gives to us, and the audience is shown just enough to have an idea of what's going on, but at the same time, having plenty of questions. We can also empathize with Graham thinking it's a human, and since we know Shyamalan is a guy who loves his twists, we consider this possibility of it being a hoax as well. It isn't until later in the film, when Mel Gibson's character Graham decides to investigate the crop circles, that we catch our next viewing of the alien. Graham is skeptical, and he thinks that the aliens are a ruse, most likely an elaborate prank being pulled by some kids who spend too much time online, which is what his brother theorizes.
Morgan, this crop stuff is about a bunch of nerds who never had a girlfriend in their lives. They're like 30 and they work up little codes together and they analyze Greek mythology and make up secret societies where other guys who never had girlfriends before can join in.
Did I mention Joaquin Phoenix is in this movie? As Graham goes through the field alone in search of who's out there, we get this amazing scene where the sound goes quiet and Graham aims his flashlight into the cornfield. Then you see some movement as what looked to be a crop is actually the leg of an alien, and it moves out of the shot. Blink and you'll miss it. This quick moment establishes a key technique employed by this movie, and that's the aliens hiding in plain sight. They have the ability, like cephalopods, to change their skin color, and this allows them to camouflage into their surroundings. I also love the sound in this scene, since the other wildlife quiets down, and you see this happen multiple times in the movie, and it's this eerie silence that just shouldn't be there. It's almost like the animals are scared too, and this is a brilliant subtle technique used by Shyamalan. Here's an example. Not too long after this scene, Shyamalan decides enough's enough and it's time to just show him. Whoa, keep your shirt on, bro. Joaquin Phoenix's character Meryl is watching the news and the broadcast says that they have a video that shows these visitors. We then see what looks to be a video from a personal camera at a birthday party, and the kids are all gathering around and freaking out while pointing at something. They are in the way as Meryl points out.
Move, children! Vámonos!
And we then see the shot move to looking at an alleyway, and at first nothing seems weird. From what I could find on Reddit, these kids are speaking Portuguese, and they're saying something to the effect of "it's behind there." But when we look, we don't see anything. Then, after a split second, we see some rustling in the trees, and the camouflaged alien comes out and takes center stage. This scene is probably the most well-known part of this movie, and rightfully so. The decision to fully reveal the alien in this grainy video is genius from Shyamalan, because it feels real. If an alien invasion happened in real life, especially in the early 2000s when this movie is set, you would first see it on some hazy looking footage. If this scene gives you Bigfoot vibes, then that's actually what was intended, since the pose of the alien is meant to mimic the infamous Patterson-Gimlin film, which is without a doubt the most famous and debated video of Bigfoot out there. And let me just get this out of the way. This isn't a Sasquatch, it's not a man in a suit, it's a Trindamermane. What else would they look like? This VHS vibe that this scene presents is perfect because it's also a callback to real life and all of the grainy found footage videos we see over various cryptids. The pose of the alien and how it's trying to blend into the grass is also unsettling, and I find it creepier the more I watch it since I can see its outline and how it's peering back at us. This thing acts human, yet it's completely different at the same time. This scene, in addition to being realistic, is also just genuinely terrifying. This full reveal still leaves things to the imagination, since it's so quick and in all of its cathode ray goodness, you're not able to examine everything. You're still wondering how this alien looks up close, and this is a great segue to the next scene that immediately comes after this. So I know by this video's title and by how it's going so far, you probably have the impression that I'm going to talk about the birthday party scene and then call it a day. But we also have to discuss the next scene and how Shyamalan perfectly carries the tension going forward. In the next scene, we see Graham visiting Ray. A brown guy in an older movie? This has to be a cameo. And it is. It's actually M. Night. He plays the man who killed Graham's wife, and he tells him that these visitors apparently don't like bodies of water. Ray also captured one and locked it in his pantry, and so Graham investigates. Graham hasn't seen the footage that Meryl just saw, and he's naturally much more skeptical, so he still isn't sold that these are actually aliens. This scene is one of my favorite horror scenes of all time. Graham goes into the kitchen and starts trying to interrogate the imprisoned intruder by acting like a cop. The thing obviously doesn't understand a word of what he's saying, and so it just remains silent. Speaking of silence, I also love the lack of music in this scene. There is no creepy ambient music playing in the background, it's just the sounds from the scene. This definitely adds to the tension and realism of this moment. Graham isn't getting a reaction from his mock interrogation, and so he decides to grab a reflective object to see if he can peer under the crack below the door. He grabs a knife and shines it through, but to no avail. He decides that's enough and gets up to leave. As he's walking out though, his curiosity gets the better of him, since this is his one opportunity to find out if this thing is real and what it looks like, and so he walks back and grabs the knife and goes for round 2. This time though, the alien isn't hiding, and his hand comes out of the crack, reaching for Graham. Graham grabs the knife and chops off the fingers of the alien. If it isn't obvious enough, we will see more of this poor guy later on in the film. What I love about these two scenes is the suspense that Shyamalan uses, since we find out from the news broadcast that the aliens are without a doubt real. There is no Shyamalan twist in this regard. The aliens are not humans in disguise. Maybe they're demons though if you want to go with that theory. This is a perfect example of suspense, since the audience knows that Graham thinks this is a hoax, and they can understand his perspective, but they are now armed with the information that this thing is actually real, and that Graham is playing with fire. These back-to-back scenes do a perfect job of carrying the tension, and the overall setup of revealing the alien through a creepy-ass found footage video will stick around as arguably the greatest monster reveal of all time. Overall, just some great directing by Shyamalan. There it is though, my favorite monster reveal in film. Some close seconds are The Ritual and the tapes from Sinister, and let me know your favorite monster reveals in the comments below. I absolutely love Signs as a movie though, and I think it's criminally underrated. It combines two completely distinct ideas perfectly, like religion and the extraterrestrial. It also has one of the cleanest double entendres I've ever heard in a movie.
Caroline? Please stop calling me father.
What's wrong?
I don't hear my children.
I am a geek for writing, so of course I had to point that out. But that's my sales pitch to watch Signs if you haven't already. And if you have, then I hope this trip down memory lane was enjoyable. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please check out some of my other stuff. I try my hardest to make some original content for you guys, covering stuff that hasn't been said before. Thanks for watching, I love you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.